Hi everyone. In this lesson, I'm going to be talking about subtraction. And with subtraction, sometimes we have to do regrouping, and sometimes you might call that borrowing and subtraction. So we have regrouping with addition, and we have regrouping with subtraction. Um, and today we're going to talk about subtraction. And in these cases, they're going to have some zeros that we have to deal with. So when we're regrouping or borrowing, we're going to have some zeros we have to deal with, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways that we can work those out. One way is more of the traditional method, and the other is called the box it method. Both work the same way, just a little bit different steps to get there. So we're going to look at both ways. You can do either way that you prefer, but I want to show you both ways just so you can pick which one you like, and hope this helps explain how to do regrouping with subtraction when you have some zeros to deal with. So for the first example, we're going to do the same problem, and I'm going to show it to you using the traditional method, and I'm also going to show you using the box it method. You can really compare how the two are similar but a little bit different. So for traditional method, for 801 minus 375, the first thing we always have to do is start in our ones place. In our ones column, we have 1 minus 5. And if you watched one of my other videos on subtracting, I told everyone that if the top number is more, so if we have more on the top, then there's no need to stop and we can just subtract down. But if we have a number on the bottom, or the number on the floor is bigger, so if there's more on the floor, then we have to go next door. So in this case, our 5 is more. That means there's more on the floor. So we need to go next door. And if we go next door, we have a 0 here. And this 0, we can't take 1 away from it to add 10 more to our ones. So what we need to do is we need to go next door to it so that we can put something in our tens place. So we have to go all the way over to now our hundreds column, and we have our 8. We're going to now take 1 away from our 8. It's going to become a 7, and we're going to add 10 more to our tens column. So now instead of regrouping from the tens to the ones, we had to first regroup from the hundreds to the tens. So we've just taken 100 and we've broken it up into 10 tens. Well, now if we're at our ones column, we can take away from our tens column. So now I can take away from that 10 and make it a 9 because I took 1 away. And then I'm going to add 10 more to my ones column. And when I add 10 more to my ones column, my 1 plus 10 would equal 11. Now if I look at this problem, I have 11 minus 5 to start with. And since I have more on top, there's no need to stop. So I can do my subtraction. So 11 minus 5 gives me 6. And then I go to my tens column. I have 9 minus 7. Again, we have more on top, so no need to stop. And 9 minus 7 is 2. And then I go to my hundreds column. I have 7 minus 3, which equals 4. And if you guys have done these kind of problems, you've probably done it this way, which is fine and it works out. There's just a little bit of clutteredness to it, which is kind of sometimes why I prefer the box it method. So let's look at the box it method for the same problem. When we have 801 minus 375. When I look at my 1 minus 5, I can't do that. So instead of going to my hundreds place, I'm going to box my hundreds and my tens together. So now instead of 0 in my tens to borrow from, I'm going to borrow from my 80. And I'm going to say I'm 80 tens. So if I take 1 away from 80, that leaves me with 79. And I can add 1 to my 1 and make it 11. And if you look at our first example, we got a 7, 9, and 11, which is the same thing we got in the first way. It's just doing those 2 steps and making them into 1 by boxing it. So instead of borrowing twice, we just borrow once when we box those 2 numbers together. And if you have more than 1 0, you can box it and make it a 100 number that you take from. We just have to watch that we're making sure that we are only taking 1 away. So now I do my 11 minus 5, which still gives me 6, and 9 minus 7 gives me 2, and 7 minus 3 gives me 4. So my difference here is 426, which is the same thing I got with the traditional method. So it doesn't matter if you like the traditional or borrowed twice, or you like the box it method where we just box and only borrow once, we still get the same answer for both methods. So let's look at a couple more examples using both methods. So for the example 2, we're going to use the traditional way. So if I look 7 minus 4, I can do that way. So when I have 7 minus 4, that equals 3. And now I have to go to my tens place. I have 0 minus 2. And 0 minus 2 we can't do because there's more on the floor, so we have to go next door. I take 1 away, so my 9 becomes an 8. And I add 10 more, so my 0 becomes a 10. Now I have 10 minus 2, which equals 8. And 8 minus 6, which equals 2. So my difference in this problem is 283. Mm-hmm. So now if I look at the box it method for example 3, I have 407 minus 259. To start, I have to go to my ones place, and I have 7 minus 9. Well, I have more on the floor in this case, so I have to go next door. And since I have a 0 next door, I'm going to box my 4 and my 0, so now I have 40 I'm going to take from. So if I go next door, I have 40, and I'm going to take 1 away, and 1 less than 40 is 39. And then I'm going to add 10 more to my ones place. So my 7 plus 10 gives me 17. Now 17 minus 9, to think about this a little bit. The way I like to think of it, if I'm going from 9 and trying to get to 17, if I go from 9 to 10, I have to add 1. If I go from 10 to 17, I have to add 7. So I had to add 7 and 1, and together that made me have to add 8. That means my difference between 9 and 17 is 8. Now I look at my tens column. I have 9 minus 5, and 9 minus 5 equals 4. And then my hundredths column, 3 minus 2 equals 1. So my difference for this problem is 148. All right, so those are 2 more examples. We have 2 more I want to look at. So we have the traditional and the boxing method. So for the traditional, we have, for example 4, we have 402 minus 174. So I start in my ones column as always, and I have 2 minus 4. Well, I have more on the floor, so I have to go next door. So I don't have anything to take away here, so I have to go over to my hundreds column. If I take 1 from my 4, I now have a 3, and I add 10 more to my tens. Well, now I can take from my tens column. So I take 1 from my 10, which makes it 9, and then I add 10 more to my 2, and 10 plus 2 gives me 12. So 12 minus 4 I can do because there's more on top, so no need to stop. 12 minus 4 equals 8. And then I have in the tens column 9 minus 7, which equals 2. And then my hundredths column, I have 3 minus 1, which equals 2. So my difference in this problem, or my answer, is 228. All right, I want to do one more example with you today, and we're going to use the box it method. So when I'm looking at 902 minus 538, I start in my ones column, and I have 2 minus 8. Well, there's more on the floor because 8 is bigger than 2, so I have to go next door. And I'm going to box my hundreds place and my tens place together, and I'm just going to take away from that. So I'm going to take 1 away from 90, and 1 less than 90 is 89. All right, so I take 1 away. Now I have to add 10 more to my ones. So 1 plus 2 gives me 12. So I did the same steps as I did in the last problem, where I borrowed all the way over to the hundreds place. But instead of writing my 10 in the tens place and then changing it to a 9 because I took 1 away from it, I just took it all away in one step. So now I can do my problem. I have 12 minus 8, which equals 4. In the tens column, I have 9 minus 3, which equals 6. And then 8 minus 5, which equals 3. So my answer for this problem is 364. So I just want to review with you before we end here when we're doing our subtraction, we have to remember that if there's more on top, then there's no need to stop. We just subtract down. But if there's more on the floor, then we have to go next door. All right. And when we go next door, we take one away. And this is true for both the traditional way and the box it method. Both ways, we're just taking one away and we add 10 more. So when we're subtracting, we want to check, is there more on top or is there more on the floor? Is there more on top? Then we don't need to stop. If there's more on the floor, then we have to go next door. And once we go next door, we have to take one away and add 10 more. All right, so make sure that when you're doing subtraction, you follow those rules. The first two steps are your most important. And if there's more on the floor, then we have to follow that third little phrase. Okay, so I hope that helps you. Feel free to go through any of my other videos to help you as well. If you have any comments or anything, leave those below. And look out for some more videos that I'll be posting here soon as we all try to kind of go through this new adventure we have of trying to learn at home, and make sure you're staying safe and washing your hands. All right. See you later.